blink and the first month of the new year's over. Joining us this morning, our friends from Titusville City Hall. We've got the city manager, Mr. Neil Fratus. We've got the mayor, John Crouch. Good morning.
Morning.
Good to see you guys
Luke.
this morning.
Good to see you.
Can you believe it? January.
Yeah.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Gone this week. Yeah.
Just insane. Well, how would you rate January?
A blink.
Went fast, yes.
You said it. Yeah.
You did. You said it right.
Yeah.
Here and gone, just so quick.
Did you have a list of things you wanted to tackle in January, or does it just...
a couple pages of...
did you get through it, or just
no,
gets
I'm still
bumped
on,
into the next month?
Still on the top paragraph of the first page.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's funny how that works.
Yeah.
So there's really a lot going on, a lot to cover, from trails to church run to a new alert system for the city that folks want to get signed up for. You can tell us about that. There's just really there's a lot to kind of go over. Where do you guys want to start?
Well, we got two new positions on top of that.
Let's start with that.
Public safety commissioner / fire chief / police chief should be. We're still working on that. It's still listed over at the police station, and we're working on that. And then we've had quite a few. Neil can touch on how many applicants we've had for the deputy manager.
Position. Yeah. Yes, we've had 25 applications at least that have come through.
Wow.
And we're still collecting till this Friday for that position. That position replaces the public works director that we previously had. This position obviously entails working with our public works folks in our water department and sewer plant, but also some other additional duties as well that we can use admin-wise. So again, we're excited to get that many applications, and we'll be going through them at the beginning of next week and start interviewing and hope to fill that soon. And as the mayor said, a public safety commissioner position we hope to fill by the end of this week is our hope, as we're going to work on that. And again, we're excited with the changing times here in the city and these new positions, and we feel it'll definitely streamline the police and fire, the public safety departments, and
So
as we move forward.
For that position, is that you search internally first?
Yeah, so we posted at the fire department first. We advertised that within the ranks of the fire department, and obviously everyone knows we don't have a large fire department, so it was just a few folks that would look at that position, and then it's in our police department now. And again, we're going to work this week on getting that position filled and some of the details of what that entails, and we'll be moving forward. So I'm excited. I think council's excited as well as we travel this endeavor. We have an ambulance that we acquired, and we have some things we're working on to get that on the road, whether it's that and working with Emergent Care as well. So we're excited to get that going.
Excellent. Yeah, John, I know there's a lot of excitement heading into the new year with some of these things, but you can't continue on till you get these positions filled, or at least the one, right? At
least the one, but it looks like we're making progress. If we don't, then we'll go outside, advertise outside. But it looks very promising. I don't know if you noticed over the last few weeks, they put the lights up in the park downtown, so that we're just waiting on sod when the weather breaks. And so far, January was pretty light compared to the end of December, snow and cold-wise.
Yeah. If you drive past where Taco Bell's going in, I mean, the amount of work they've gotten done in January, I think surprised a lot of people.
It did, yes. I'm very thankful the weather was cooperative for them. And I just went by actually on the way here and saw the banners, the Taco Bell banners that are out front there. And
now hiring.
Yeah, now hiring, and the glass doors out front, and it looks great.
Yeah.
Just to see it forming.
Well, it didn't take long, so.
No.
Isn't that funny? It took longer just to go through the process. And this isn't you guys. This is just how government works, right?
Yep.
It took longer to do all that than it took to erect a building. And
Yes. To get it down.
Get it down, yeah.
Exactly.
We've talked about another building that might be coming down on its own if somebody doesn't step up. Any updates on that property on Diamond Street?
No, other than we're closely watching it, obviously, each day, and watching the forecast of heavy snow that, if it's going to happen again. So we continue to talk to the folks from the county and other folks, and we're trying to figure out a way to do something with that building. Again, it's a discussion that we have, I would say, every week, trying to find but what avenue we can go down to try to figure it out. And again, it's not easy.
Yeah. So would the person who owns it, would they sell it if somebody bought it? The problem is nobody wants to buy it?
They would probably give it away.
Well, in the past, within the last 3 years, I know there's been some folks that have been interested in that building and have made an offer to the owner who lives in New York, and it just kind of fell apart. Nothing happened, and obviously no sale was done because here we are today.
Yeah.
So I know there was interest, and again, it's the same owner who had the burnt structure beside Misty's Arcade that, the city obviously we had to deal with many years ago, and the city acquired it and had to tear it down, and the cost that was involved in that as well. And again, it's some folks they think it's just easy. Hey, just get it and fix it, or tear it down, put the money into it, and be done with it. But it's not that easy to do. And certainly when the city doesn't own it, there's a lot of hoops that we would have to go through. And again, we're exploring different ideas and working with other with the county and the state, and it's just not an easy solution for that building.
John, there's some folks who own property and they'll own it forever and never want to sell it, even if it's falling in.
Yes.
But you don't think this person fits in that category?
I don't
per
think
se?
so. I don't think so. Once the liens start going against him for all the things that need done, and the fact that it's already been condemned, so next will be a demolition permit. But it's going to be a little tighter thing if that's what we end up with, because if you remember the building next to Gail Kreiner and Missy's there, we could work everything from what was the old parking lot and not disrupt traffic. Doing this on both sides, it's right up against the street, so
yeah.
that's going to probably shut that whole street down while they're demolishing it. So that's some more nightmarish, and you got all the wires there and everything, so it'll be interesting.
Always something, huh?
Yeah, got that right.
Yeah. So stay tuned for more
Yeah.
on that story. So employment opportunities, we talked about some positions there. What about board opportunities? I know sometimes at meetings you ask for input, or you mention there's I don't say a position, but a spot open on a board that needs to be filled. Are any openings there? Or
I think we'll have to check next. Let's see, a couple of weeks we have a meeting at the airport advisory. I think we got one opening, either they're up or coming up, and health board maybe.
Yeah, I think we have one there as well. And again, we always encourage folks to get involved, at whether it's not running for council, but getting on a board just to see what the city does, and obviously depending on what board you're on, to see what that does as well. And again, we want folks to be involved and have in decisions that are made here in the city, and always encouraging folks to volunteer for those boards. Again, we understand, as if you have children, they're busy with different things and school functions and other activities, but again, we always encourage folks to participate in those types of things.
last meeting, gentleman Ron Steffi, right?
Yep,
Presented
trail
a
consultant.
trail update. Kind of give us an idea of what's going on, and for those who might not be paying attention or just seeing, I think Martin Street has the new lanes that you guys put in the fall, and they see stuff like that. But the overall trail picture, it's not quite there, but it's pretty close, right?
Yes, I think we as a city need to be more aggressive with figuring it out through our community, because it's going to bring a lot of revenue and business to our community when that opens up.
Yeah, and one of the hurdles was the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail and going through the city of Titusville, and again, the lines that were just done last year. So, Stifler McGraw was a part of that. TRA was a part of that with some funding that came through years ago, and to be able to see that again. But the challenge was always, do you want folks riding their bikes, the trail running right down through Main Street where the traffic is, and how nice it would be to be able to run behind, say along McDonald's and along the parking lot and along WL Plastics, and get it over across 27 out to Hightown and through Oil Creek Township, of course. And so those are some of the things. And I applaud Ron Steffi, the trail consultant, trying to put a plan together to go out and talk to these folks and to talk to Oil Creek, the Railroad Historical Association, and I've had the opportunity to go with Ron and to visit the trail out in Hightown. It goes from Hightown out, towards Centerville direction, and the trail that they worked on, and it's just wonderful to see. And again, it's we've got to move forward with getting that trail. We're missing out on a lot, and we want folks obviously to ride through the city and see what we have. And again, I applaud Ron for stepping forward and looking for funding, and putting his time into figuring out a solution. And obviously the city's involved with that.
So where is the gap? Is there just a connection issue between Hightown and Titusville?
Yeah, so into Hightown near Hawks Grocery, obviously everyone's familiar with Hawks Grocery. That's a newer portion of the trail that they just worked on, and then it kind of goes down Main Street in Hightown, and there's no other trail. It ends up, it doesn't pick up until you get to behind Southwoods.
Right.
So there's quite a gap there in between, and as Ron said, he wants to work on the easier parts before you get into the more difficult parts, talking to the business owners and getting permission to go along the railroad tracks and what have you in some of these businesses. So again, there's seems like a large gap there that we need to figure out a solution for. And again, it's been years in the making. We've sat idle, and it's time to move forward with coming up with a solution and connecting it.
So is it just Ron, or is there like a committee that Ron kind of works with to help figure this all out?
So, Ron's working with a bunch of volunteers and some other groups as well. But again, I think we had just applied for some funding, which will include getting a committee together, some local folks together to be able to participate, share some ideas and thoughts. And, that group will go out and talk with some of these business owners and come up with a plan and say, hey, what's best for connecting the trail? And, how's that going to work between running through Hightown into Titusville? And obviously, Hasbroucks are involved potentially, and Route 8. Do you want folks riding their bike down Route 8? Certainly not. But what alternatives do we have? Right. So again, Ron will figure that out with this group, a committee group, and come up with a solution.
John, you'll have to invest in some giant drones or something where maybe you can pick people up from Hightown and bring them into town.
That's a good idea.
So, there we go.
Figure that out.
We could use the airport.
Yeah. You're watching the Morning Drill on Stream Television and on Armstrong's Neighborhood Channel, and listening to it on the Allegheny News Talk Sports Network. Neil Fratus and John Crouch with us here this morning. Church Run, that continues to be a conversation that, sometimes I think, when something happens like the flooding a couple years ago, it's like, okay, this is something that happened now. We got to deal with it. We got to figure it out. And then time goes on and kind of gets pushed, aside. But this has been a conversation that keeps coming up. So good on you guys to keep having the conversation. Where are you with the planning, and what's sort of next with all of this?
Well, we're getting ready to vote on a engineer to complete our engineering study. So we're picking one.
Yep. So obviously the issue with Church Run has been many years, going and so we put some RFPs out, had 4 different engineering companies from local to as far as way up to New York. And those folks had put proposals together. Some of them had visited Titusville, looked at Church Run, went through the large box that we had of recent history of Church Run and all the studies that had been done. And, they're coming up with a plan to update that and give us a mitigation plan for Church Run. So council will have that in front of them next week to vote on. We talked about it at the previous meeting, looked at some of the engineering firms and the scoring system that was had to come up with a recommendation, obviously, for me. And again, we're going to revisit that next Tuesday. And council will select an engineer, and we'll be able to move forward with coming up with a plan. And again, it won't be a real quick, this is how you fix it and you can do it tomorrow. It's a long-term solution, of course. And we're just excited to get something going and get that information updated as it needs updated.
Some of these plans are quite old, right?
They are.
Yes.
Is there any change in technology that would come into play, or is it like, hey, you know what? Actually, the way they did it, 50 years ago, this would be a solid way of doing it.
Yeah, they may come back and say it's the same, kind of the same plan. Obviously, the cost is much different, but back then it was a dry dam. Was brought up. Let's put a dry dam, north of Church Run, and then the soil was tested and said it just wasn't going to hold. We can't do that. Let's look at a box culvert type system where we tear up several streets in the city with a system under the roads.
Take out some historical homes.
Yes.
Really?
So there wasn't a lot. It looked to me there was 2 options.
Right.
But possibly the dry dam wouldn't work. But that was many years ago. Maybe now it would. Obviously, different technology and different things you can do. So we'll see what happens. See what the engineer says.
And this certainly isn't an easy thing, right?
No.
I mean, this is even once you get the study and figure out the cost and all that, then it's how you pay for it, and then I'm sure there's studies and all sorts of things that have to be done after that. So
look for funding and what have you.
It's been an issue since the founding of Titusville, so now and then. So we look forward to finding a solution, though.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, coming into to February, I'm sure the thoughts of spring being around the corner, not that far away, and projects that you can start once the weather breaks. Like we said, it hasn't been horrible, but the point is, I was just talking to somebody with the school district last week, asking about the baseball and softball fields, and it's like, yeah, we're going to be outside before you know it, trying to get those in shape, ready for spring sports.
Yes.
It's coming,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Do you guys have a list of things that you start with, once spring hits, that you say, okay, now we got to get back outside and take care of, this, and this?
Yeah, many
Yes.
projects. Ed Meyer, today, matter of fact, I have a meeting this afternoon with the engineer out of Pittsburgh, Pashik MTR, and we're reviewing a sketch on some of the exciting projects we have for Ed Meyer this year, from new dugouts on 3 of the baseball fields to pickleball courts to redoing a building down there to house some of the sporting equipment for the different sport entities, and playground set as well. So we're very excited. I'm excited to see this sketch, to see what it looks like, and those projects will be this year. We're going to obviously have to work around once spring's here and summer and baseball and softball and soccer and the different things you have down there. So we'll have to coordinate with those folks as well. And so we're excited with many of those exciting projects down there, and among other projects we have in the city that we're looking forward to this year as well.
Well, in terms of that project, will there be disruptions this summer then?
They'll see obviously some construction going on down there, probably July, August. So we're going to obviously coordinate with the baseball team and obviously the softball and the school district, as we don't want to interrupt any of the seasons that are going on there. And of course, some of the tournaments we have down there, some of the special event baseball tournaments, cross country has things going on, of course, once school starts back up. And so we'll have to, it'll be I won't say it'll be a challenge, but those will be a hurdle that we'll have to go around.
So it won't be like the whole complex will be shut down for a couple months?
No,
Okay.
not at all. If they're working on one of the baseball fields, the other ones obviously will be usable. And
Right.
Again, we'll coordinate with all the different groups, sports groups, to make sure it happens and they can still.
And if anybody has a couple $100,000 lying around and wants to maybe make
Sure.
a donation for lights,
Lights, that would be
man,
that'd be
I
good.
think
Yeah.
that's really the only thing keeping it from being like
Sure. Yep.
outstanding down
Right.
there.
We talked about that years ago.
Well, you guys looked
certainly still
into
talk
it.
about it.
Yes.
Yep.
That gets you one set, that figure.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we're hoping to get, to start out where we get them between 2 fields so they can be able to project on both fields.
Yeah.
Definitely something we're looking at.
Yeah. Well, that's. I mean, I tell you, it's a great facility
Yeah.
and just be amazing. But again, steady improvement over time. And I'm still playing the lottery, Neil, so we can get the funding for a dome down there.
I was just going to
so.
say, you still working on that?
Yeah, I'm
sports
still
dome?
working on
All
that.
right.
Okay.
I was just talking about that the other day, actually.
We'll work with you when it happens.
Whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
At this point,
We'll work with you.
Yep.
John, for you, what sort of on your agenda as mayor when you're speaking with council? Do you have some things you want to bring to the table for this year?
Well, one thing we have talked about that we'd really like to put on the table moving forward is to come up with a strategic planning meeting with different groups once we get our new public safety commissioner and our new deputy manager in place, and then start talking about the rec director, new rec director, that kind of stuff. We'd like to do some strategic planning to look in 1, 2, 4, 5 years down in the future and try to nail some stuff, nail some goals down for the future.
It seems like we just had the folks from Drake Well on, and you talk to them, you talk to the OC&T, you talk to the folks like Adam Deem, who's doing the Roughneck Gravel Roubaix, the folks that do the marathons and all the races and all that stuff that comes into town. Folks from Drake Well said, their attendance surpassed, I think, 2019. I mean, they're back to the pre-pandemic stuff.
Good.
People are visiting the area. Not only that, but and this is good. They come in thinking, there's not much going on here. We're only going to spend a day, and then we'll leave. And they're discovering, I could spend a week here, a couple weeks here,
Good.
and take in everything. So there's excitement, right? And the level of tourism. How important is that for the city to understand that and to know, okay, the decisions we're making plays a role in how folks view their visiting experience here?
I think with the pandemic, it even shows us more that is the wave of the future, and that we need to embrace it as businesses, as city management and city council, to realize that that's where a lot of the economic development and just the enjoyment of being able to enjoy the area, from the fly fishing, the kayak, and the trail bicycle riding, like this roughneck race is coming in with different things. Drakewell, we want to look at ourselves as a destination where people can come in, spend a few days or a week or longer, and enjoy the place.
Yeah, I want to add, how important it is the city to work with those event organizers, these businesses, and when they're having special events, whether it's down at Drakewell or at the OC&T, how we've always talked, how do we get those folks to come up into the city and visit our restaurants, and that's why it's important that we're all working together to be able to, whether it's advertising, whether it's, us, the city at a council meeting bringing up, hey, don't forget, we have a special event coming up this weekend, and again, we always talk about the airport, and how can we get folks that maybe are just visiting and stopping by to get fuel to see the advertisements of our local restaurants and say, hey, let's drive a couple miles down into town and try this restaurant out, and let's not instead of going to Oil City or Franklin or Meadville, hey, Titusville has this. So again, it's just important that we're advertising that, and we're working with those, as I said, those event organizers to tell them what we have here, here in the city.
Neil, John, good to see you this morning.
Thank you,
Luke. Thank you.
Very much.